Hello. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to start. Can you please take your places? Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Can I please request you to take your places? We'll be starting the moment you all are seated. Thank you.
Please take your seats. Ghayas Khan, Amir Paracha and Maheen Rahman are requested to join us at the head table. Mr. Ghayas Khan and Mr. Amir Paracha and Maheen Rahman also.
Amir, we're waiting for you on stage. तलावत शुरू करें। Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Can we all be seated? We're about to start. We'll be starting with the recitation of the Quran.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
Please stand for the national anthem.
زمین
On behalf of the Marketing Association of Pakistan and the Programs Committee, welcome to all of you to attend our inaugural session for Imagining the Unimaginable. The Marketing Association of Pakistan, under the leadership of Aswar Hassan, this year has planned tremendous events, starting off with today's event. We'll be regularly interacting with yourselves and new members. So may I please welcome President of Marketing Association of Pakistan, Aswar Hassan.
Thank you, Amir. Will you please join us here? He is my friend from Ireland and the biggest ambassador of Pakistan in the Europe. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My teacher, Javed Jabbar, distinguished speakers, past presidents, members of MAP, industry leaders, industry colleagues, members of the press and media, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon. I am grateful to all of you for your presence here on behalf of Marketing Association of Pakistan. Today is the first day of revival and the restructuring of Marketing Association of Pakistan. This is 50 years old organization, and in the past few decades, MAP's contributions towards marketing profession are commendable. People like Harun Bashir, late, and his brother Humayun Bashir is here. Humayun Saab, please rise for the recognition. Harun Bashir Saab was father of Marcon, and his contributions are commendable. He is no more with us, but he was our teacher, he was our mentor, and he played a very important role for the Marketing Association of Pakistan. And our many other friends, Talib Karim is here, and many other friends contributed their best for the Marketing Association. All of you are my very dear friends, my family. I should be very candid with you. Why I joined Marketing Association as the president? I'm part of Marketing Association since long, but initially I resisted because this is a huge responsibility. मैं इसको उस तरह नहीं चलाना चाहता था जिस तरह हमारे यहाँ नॉन प्रॉफिट्स चलती हैं, और मेरी लर्निंग्स डिफरेंट थी, मेरी इमेजिनेशन डिफरेंट थी, and I initiated and I decided to be the president from now. Mahin, please join us here on this stage. So my objectives are very clear. First objective is to revive Marketing Association as an institution, as a sustainable institution. And the first year targets are to induct around 300 plus quality members, both individual members as well as the corporate members. There are 70 corporate organizations are part of the Marketing Association, but there is a need of induction of more and more organizations in the MAP. Second is the larger community in Karachi, from the business, from the marketing, advertising, communication, brand, media. They should be a part of this organization, because Marketing Association is an apex body of marketing in Pakistan. And for me, our neighboring country, our neighbor India, is a classic example. For example, their Management Association of India, All India Management Association, there are 72 chapters in India. In Lucknow, in Hyderabad, not only the big cities, there are 150 employees of All India Management Association. Same is the case of their NESCOM. Same is the case of National HRD Council. There are 62 chapters of National HRD Council. So our population size is also 230 million. And out of 230 million, around 60% are under 30 years of age. There is a huge youth bulge. So what we are providing to them as the association or as the seniors of the industry. So this is also one of the thought to establish Marketing Association of Pakistan in Islamabad. There's a federal capital, the most powerful center of Pakistan, but there is no chapter of MAP in Lahore, Islamabad. There is no chapter of Management Association in Islamabad. So our target is to establish Islamabad chapter also. Lahore chapter is already very active. And there is a need of revive Marketing Association of Pakistan, Karachi. There's a population of 25 to 30 million, but there are only 400 plus members. And around 50% are inactive. So from now onwards, we are inducting the new members. Same is the case of the leadership. I strongly believe that there should be a continuation and there should be a change of faces after every 1 or 2 years, because this is mandatory for any non-profit organization in Pakistan. And I'm not talking about the Marketing Association. I studied actually management of non-profit organizations. Unfortunately, in our country, only 15-20% are active in every organization, whether this is a chamber. I'm not talking about OICCI. This is the most professional chamber, where once you served as a president, you can't be a president for lifetime. Same is the case of Institute of Chartered Accountants of Pakistan. You served as a president one time for 1 year, and you can't be president for lifetime. So this should be the rule in Marketing Association. This should be the rule in all other associations. This should be the spirit of professionals. This should be the spirit of the industry to transform these organizations through engagement of new leaders. So this is point number one. Secondly, I should admit, because this is by election, so in my ear, there is no woman member in the council. And I'm very upset because of this issue. So I addressed this issue in the first council meeting last week. And because I want maximum women participation on the merit, purely on merit, not just for the sake of women participation. And we are inducting more and more members. And hopefully during this year, we will induct 1 or 2 in the council also. And I wish that after 1 or 2 years or 3 years, the woman should be the president of Marketing Association of Pakistan also. In last 50 years, 50 is a big number, but no woman served as the president of Marketing Association of Pakistan. This is alarming. And I'm not talking about the Marketing Association. Same is the case of several other associations also. So we should engage the women workforce, the women leaders, the women practitioners from several industries in every institution. Their leadership role is very important. So this is second point where I want to work. And alhamdulillah, we received so many requests of membership from the women practitioners. And inshallah ta'ala, this is the first meeting. Every month there is a meeting of Marketing Association. So we will continue this and we will induct more and more women members also. The third one is our Marcon. Marcon is the biggest marketing event in Pakistan. So we decided to revive this Marcon also on the next level, on the global level. So next year we are planning to host Marcon in Karachi. And inshallah, with the team efforts, with the support of all my friends here, we will be able to produce a big marketing conference in Karachi. And next year is the term then followed by Lahore. And hopefully later we will host one in Islamabad, because this year we are starting the Islamabad chapter also. So these are my thoughts. And I am again very grateful to all of you. Today's theme is Imagining the Unimaginable. This is the main theme. And the best person is here, Mr. Javed Jabbar, for the keynote address. I'm especially grateful to Mr. Yusuf Hussain, the president of Faysal Bank Limited, and also the Faysal Bank management, to be a part of this inaugural lunch and dialogue. They especially urged me to host this dialogue, and they are supporting us. And from January 2023, all of you are aware that this will be 100% Islamic bank. And this is world's leading transaction, actually. World's leading transformation of Islamic bank, the 100% conventional to Islamic bank. This will be followed by a leaders' dialogue on leadership for new economic realities. And we engaged 4 outstanding professionals here. One is Mohammad Aurangzeb, the president of Habib Bank Limited. He is the chairman of Pakistan Business Council. He is the chairman of Pakistan Banks Association. And Ori, I'm grateful to you, your chairman Sultan Alana, and your entire team for your commendable role in respect to FATF. I think full marks to your team, actually. My friend and brother Ghayas Khan is here, one of the outstanding CEOs Pakistan produced. He's the president of Overseas Investor Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He's the president of Angro. And our third very dear friend is Amir Paracha, the chairman and CEO of Unilever. He's the next president of OICCI. And then Maheen Rahman, my very dear friend and one of the most outstanding women leaders in Pakistan, the CEO of Infrazaman. And I'm especially grateful to my brother and friend Saqib Ahmed, who is here, especially from Islamabad. He's the country managing partner of SAP in Pakistan. So leadership for new economic realities, we are starting with this theme because this is applicable for every industry. And later we will host more and more sessions on communication. The guru, my guru Javed Iqbal is here. And he's the guru of PR industry in Pakistan, my teacher, my mentor, and all others. So this will be a process of knowledge sharing, organizational restructuring, and later part is the soft image of Pakistan. We will market Pakistan's soft image. So my closing note is, I served in the government, all of you are aware, very short time. I decided to leave due to valid reasons, actually. But I'm still working with the government for several industries and all. I strongly believe that whatever is the situation in Pakistan, this is temporary. It's up to us. It's up to us. We need a teamwork. We need collaboration between the political leaders, political parties, and concerned stakeholders. Pakistan's potential is genuinely huge. What I observed within the government, because we were working with almost every industry, every ministry, every office. In every sector, I always raise this point that there is a potential of few $billion investment in every industry. There is no rocket science. So these days, I'm writing an article on investment climate. This is a very bold article. Hopefully, this will be published mid next week. And in this article, I mentioned about the challenges and the root cause, actually, for the investment, barriers and everything. And the second part of my article, I am sharing the case study of Saudi Arabia. And these all are the personal experiences where I dealt with. Tomorrow I'm going to Saudi Arabia. And I'm meeting with their investment minister on Monday. There's a very important meeting. There are several other meetings as well in the coming week. So before going to Saudi Arabia, I'm publishing this article. This is an article where I mention few points, but a layman, for every industry professional, you will understand there is no rocket science. There is no rocket science to attract the FDI. So with this note, I'm again grateful to all speakers, all my friends here, and also the Faysal Bank Limited for their collaboration. Pakistan Zindabad. Now I invite for the opening remarks the Faysal Bank President, Mr. Yusuf Hassan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Distinguished guests and speakers, it's a privilege to be a part of this dialogue hosted by the Marketing Association of Pakistan. and be amongst the august audience, which includes many distinguished CEOs and legends from the marketing fraternity who have played a revolutionary role in their respective industries. We have in our midst Mr. Javed Jabbar, a legend in his own right, who coined, I remember he coined the jingle, "Listen to the sound of the day," after he dared to imagine the unimaginable and turned the otherwise villainous character of Pied Piper into a local superhero. So, rest is history. Welcome, Javed Jabbar Saab. The theme of today's dialogue, as Asfar mentioned, is imagining the unimaginable. So when I discussed this with Asfar, I got very interested because I could relate this both at a professional and a personal level, and allow me to indulge to showcase the journey of Faysal Bank as a case in point. The theme, Imagine the Unimaginable, challenges us to come out of our comfort zone and explore the uncharted blue oceans. It is perhaps the first step in breaking the status quo and involves a deep level of faith, belief, and commitment. In the words of Martin Luther King, who once dared to dream, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Almost 8 years ago, the management and the board of Faysal Bank decided to take the seemingly unimaginable decision to convert from a large conventional bank to an Islamic bank. Faysal Bank's conversion journey also encompassed the challenge of rapid growth. Initially, the thought process was that the conversion would be completed in 18 to 24 months. However, when we went a bit deeper into it and looked around, we found that there was no example or reference available across the globe that the bank could emulate. We had no model to follow or any idea how to transform a large running conventional bank to a full Islamic bank, while maintaining the business as usual without losing the existing customer base and also meeting our board's expectations of growth. When we got into the details and engaged with the expert external consultants from across the globe, we realized that this daunting task required a well-structured and a detailed transformation strategy and an execution plan which envisaged a complete revamp in systems, processes, procedures, product suite, brand, and above all, human transformation. We also realized that it needed more than just a plan for execution. It needed personal belief and commitment to the cause that we were all doing something good and positive for us, the employees, and for the customers. We were creating a positive impact on the society. A senior team of professionals and business leaders was constituted and entrusted upon to put together a detailed business transformation and phased implementation plan. The initial few years were spent with an inward focus concentrating on procedures, processes, and product transformation. Brand transformation from Faysal Bank to Faysal Islami was one of the major challenges. It is a journey which still continues successfully. We introduced a refreshed, rather a new Islamic identity, followed by aggressive marketing campaigns to entrench the brand. Well, the most difficult part really was the conversion of human mindset of our employee base in branches, most of whom were conventional bankers, but required to be the change agents across the bank and for the customers as well. We made them understand the Islamic banking concepts, its differences, and how it matched with Quranic guidance on riba. They were deeply motivated and inspired through heart and soul, with a firm belief that Islamic banking was indeed a better choice for them as individuals and a conduit for better income on a monthly basis. Another major source of motivation that we were able to instill in our employees and to a large extent in our customer base was the pride they took in terms of being a part of the world's largest conversion of a conventional bank to an Islamic bank in the history of financial sector across the globe. As a major requirement of our transformation, we also introduced new corporate values to live by based on the concept of Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, which basically means seeking His guidance towards the right path. The relevant new values, which are in sync with our overall strategic direction, resonated very well with our employees and customers at a personal belief level and strengthened their resolve to stay committed to the right path. Based on this understanding and firm belief, our motivated staff were able to successfully convert our customer base of over 1 million customers. The mindset transformation, both at leadership and employee levels, in terms of personal belief of doing the right thing, followed by propagation of Islamic banking being a better mode of personal and business financial management, has perhaps been our key success factor. It was really heartening to see that how our customers reacted positively and adapted to Islamic banking as a preference, as an alternate to conventional banking, both in terms of their investments and borrowings. What have we been able to achieve on an overall basis? The conversion is nearing the finish line, inshallah. We've been able to achieve the following. We have been able to enlighten our customer base on mindset change towards adoption of Islamic banking being a better choice, including introduction of comprehensive range of Islamic products, probably the widest in the Islamic banking industry in Pakistan, well suited for their needs. A case in point is the introduction of first Sharia compliant credit card equivalent by the name of Noor card, which has become a top choice for the customers, primarily due to its unique Islamic proposition. We've been able to enable our existing and potential customer base to understand through our successful conversion that continued commitment and dedication to the right cause always pays off. We have been able to expand the reach for Islamic banking network and digital channels for servicing Islamic industries customers. Faysal Bank's successful transformation will be formally completed by the year end, inshallah. The transformation is being recognized for its comprehensiveness and referenced as the world's largest conversion of its kind, in particular because of the scale and size and the wide range of product offerings. With around 700 Islamic branches by the year end, we carry the highest local Sharia rating by the International Islamic Rating Agency and have the second largest Islamic network in Pakistan, which is still growing. We truly believe in the institution and its values and the fact that the best is yet to come, inshallah. We may still be at the beginning of the journey, but our ambitions are tall to make a difference and have a meaningful impact on the society. Based on this journey of faith and belief, followed by commitment and determination, we have created a great Islamic banking franchise and a model for all financial institutions to follow across the globe. We are already assisting several banks in the region to chart out such transformations for them. Many of you, the legendary leaders and CEOs, are already breaking the boundaries, imagining the unimaginable and taking various steps towards that. It is my firm belief that if the cause is good, the guidance and support will always come from Him, the Almighty. The Lord says in Surah Al-Imran, Allah is your protector and He is the best of the helpers. May Allah bless us all to realize our dreams and make Pakistan a truly progressive country. Thank you. Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you, Yusuf, for sharing the FBL's journey. I welcome the Rotary International President-elect, Mr. Gordon McNally. He's here. This is his first ever visit. I came to know 3 hours back that he reached in the morning. So I requested my friend, NRI Director Faysal Bank, to please engage him. Rotary International is working in 168 countries around the world. He's the global president with over 1.8 million members of Rotary, Rotarac, and Inner Wheel. So I welcome you and your better half, Heather, to Pakistan, and I hope that you will enjoy your stay here. And I requested actually Gordon to share his views also on the subject Imagining the Unimaginable as the global leader of Rotary International. He's from Scotland, and from July 1st, 2023, he will be the president of Rotary International. Welcome again, Gordon. Our today's keynote speaker is our favorite, my mentor, my teacher. He's intellectual, he's a writer, he's author. He served as a senator in Senate of Pakistan. He served as a federal minister for information, federal minister for petroleum, and he's also served as the advisor to Chief Executive of Pakistan in 2000. He's author of many books. His association with Marketing Association is too long. He's always one of the keynote speakers in the Marcon, and I welcome Mr. Javed Jabbar for his keynote address.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Asfar, for your very warm, generous introduction. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here with such distinguished fellow panelists, each of whom has been so well introduced by Asfar. And I compliment Mr. Yusuf Hussain on your address, which was so refreshing to hear what Faysal Bank is doing. And before us, mashallah, what a galaxy of faces. Remarkable. I'm glad Asfar noticed the gross gender imbalance. वो बिचारी को टोकन के तौर पे तो नहीं बुलाया. She qualifies in her own right. She is, I'm sure, better than all of us put together. But really, even in this audience, so many unhealthy male chauvinists here. But your sins are redeemed by your work, because I'm privileged to know many of you who have excelled in so many institutions, so many sectors, up here on the dais as well as down there. Many of you actually belong here, if not all of you. But really it's a pleasure and a privilege. And I cannot name so many of the people who I know here, but straight away, while some of you were still up in heaven, I was in school for a year with Zafar Ahmad Khan, and Zafar Ahmad Khan is sitting right there, and two of us have survived. But the reason I want to refer to his presence is that he is an example of imagining the unimaginable, of helping lead with Shaukat Mirza, the late much lamented Shaukat, and his colleagues. The first ever employer's buyout of a leading multinational corporation in Pakistan. What has become today Engro, so a hand for that kind of pioneering work. And of course, yes, there were many accomplices. Yes, I'm sorry, yeah, of course I should acknowledge you, all of you together. So that's just an example of how relevant and pertinent is the theme that Asfar has chosen and his colleagues have chosen. And one is struck by the appropriateness of the timing. Pakistan, what a delightful country we live in. Never a dull moment, never a dull day. I met a distinguished guest here who has come across from Dubai. Dubai? I said, does anything ever happen in Dubai? Except, of course, people make money and more of it, the better. But this is where the action is. Oh boy. You don't know what you're going to read in the press, and long before you read it in the press, of course, you have TV news channels assaulting our attention every evening, 24 hours of the day, and social media. But yesterday and today, within 24 hours, Pakistan imagined the imaginable or the unimaginable. I read in yesterday's paper that one very well-known individual who shall remain unnamed in public life, 6 cases pending against him for just several years, have been finally dropped by the High Court. For what reason? The fact is that in not a single file of all those 6 cases is there any original document available. All the documents are photocopies. Fantastic. And of course, the judge who dismissed this didn't bother to say who and how did these documents in their original form disappear from the custody of the superior judiciary of Pakistan. That question, of course, the Chief Justice or the Justice never touched upon. That's a minor detail. How do tons and tons of original paper documents disappear? And as a consequence, all cases are dropped. And then within 24 hours comes the announcement that another individual, who shall also remain unnamed, is disqualified from holding elected office. Fantastic. And this particular individual, and I have no affiliations with either of those 2 parties to which those 2 individuals belong, but I thought this was a remarkable contrast and an excellent expression of the contradictions and the contrasts and the mystery of Pakistan. What can happen in 24 hours. But that does not necessarily lead one to a direction of despair and desolation. I derive strength from being a Pakistani, from being a citizen, a humble citizen, what is in my considered and perhaps exaggerated view, the single most uniquely created nation-state in world history. And I don't want to get trapped in the past. I'm not evading the present. But one must learn from the past. Of course, humanity rarely learns, but sometimes you do. And look at the country that we come from, where we toil and we have all these contradictions of justice and injustice. We have a country where the founder of Pakistan had to overcome not only the resistance of the Congress party, representing the large majority of non-Muslims in South Asia of that time, he also had to overcome the resistance of the British. The British did not want Pakistan to come into being, contrary to the Indian thesis that they divided and it suited their imperial interests. There is vast documentation on record that shows that the British did not want Pakistan. So there was the Quaid-e-Azam facing the opposition of the Congress, facing the opposition of the British, and as if that was not enough, he was facing the opposition of his fellow Muslims. There were 4 strands of Muslim public opinion in South Asia that actively opposed the creation of Pakistan, led by Jamiatul Hind, Ulama-e Hind, JUI, whose successor is now the custodian, one of the custodians of the political parties of Pakistan. Another was the Jamaat-e-Islami, several others. And here was the Quaid-e-Azam being accused of being the Kafir-e-Azam. Kafir, the non-believer. And this man virtually single-handedly achieves the unimaginable, trying up to his last to avoid the bloodshed of dividing the two provinces of Punjab and Bengal, which because of the British and the Congress had to go through that trauma of bloodshed, which we now call partition. And partition is not the synonym for independence. India and Pakistan simultaneously became independent. But what a country we come from. And look at the odds against which we survived. A country given not more than 6 months by the Indian Home Minister, Vallabhbhai Patel. And despite all the attempts to deprive Pakistan of its due share of resources, with virtually no infrastructure, there comes together this overnight kind of nation state, and we overcome the odds. In our first 6 years, our rate of GDP growth left India far behind. A sense of entrepreneurship, of productivity, of tilling the fields, of building bridges, of constructing roads. Oh my God, those first 17 to 18 years of Pakistan's history are the sources of imagining the unimaginable. And of course, simultaneously, we were heading to the disaster of East Pakistan in 1971, which, despite our calamitous mistakes, was made possible only due to India's outrageous intervention. Nowhere in world history has a country invaded another country on the pretext that too many refugees are coming in to our country. That was the pathetic excuse India used. Anyway, we overcame that. And another source of inspiration from Pakistan that I derive, the compassion and the large-heartedness, the inclusivity. In a country that's 97% Muslim, we are sometimes rightly, but many more times wrongly perceived as being intolerant, extremist. I take the other view. I draw from strength from the fact that every day tens of thousands of Pakka Muslim families send their children to Christian convent schools and colleges throughout the country. And they know they're going to get qualitative education. There's no sense of bias on either side, inclusiveness. But the sense of inclusiveness comes home to me with a sign at the Jinnah Postgraduate Medical Center in Karachi. A public sector hospital. Huh? Who expects excellence or anything good in the public sector in Pakistan? All you have to do is visit the JMC radiology department. And what do you see there? A sign that should make us all proud to be Pakistanis. It says, the only free cyber knife facility on the planet. On the planet! And you know what cyber knife is? It's the most precise, most efficient way to treat tumors. And not only does it cost a lot, each machine, each session costs a lot. Everywhere else in the world, you have to be a citizen of that country in order to get free treatment, or you pay. Pakistan is the only place where all are welcome. And it shows not only compassion, it shows a mental attitude of inclusiveness. And what other sources that can one cite? I think we should, of course, it's not pedestrian to go back to the Marketing Association of Pakistan from the lofty heights of nation building. But I would be very confident that given the kind of vision outlined by Asfar and knowing the enormous strength that your members bring to you, and without wanting to do a self-commercial because it was not achieved by any person single-handedly, but just across the road from here, in 1979 September, we convened something called the First Pakistan Advertising Congress. And we took all that time to just get 6 sectors together. I was privileged to be the Secretary General of that Congress, but so many people helped. Jamal Mir, Syed Javed Iqbal, and many others. And we brought together the government, the consumer, the production services, the media, the citizens, represented by the consumers, the advertising agencies, and the advertisers. They had never sat before, ever together to discuss face to face. We therefore achieved in a very humble way the unimaginable, getting 6 very different groups to talk to each other. And 10 years later, we achieved another milestone with the convening of the 16th Asian Advertising Congress, where everyone worked together. And mistakenly, they had elected me chairman. But they survived the fact that I was chairman, and that event became the most successful similar event held in AdAsia history. So Pakistanis are capable of organizing, of convening, of cooperating, not only in the private sector, but in the public sector as well. My favorite examples are the Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission, which is a relatively specialized and narrow field, but it employs hundreds and thousands of scientists and technicians who demonstrate the highest levels of precision and competence and efficiency, and whose work is acknowledged around the world, except by President Biden, who doesn't know what to say and sometimes says the completely incoherent remark, which has to be then clarified by at least 2 spokesmen of the State Department. That is not what he meant. Incoherent? My God, I've just returned from 2 months in the United States, which is the epitome of incoherence as a nation. And that's, I'm not putting USA down, the USA down. Every nation has incoherence. But let me conclude with 2 points. One, imagining the unimaginable requires a very special mix of realism and radicalism. You can't transport yourself into some airy fairy castle and say, this is what I'm going to do. You have to keep your feet on the ground. You have to know what's happening in Liari, in Khadda Market, in Chichavatni, and at the same time transcend the harsh realities with which we are faced. So realism and radicalism. And again, we can draw strength. And I'm not being parochial because I'm a Muslim, I'm proud to be a Muslim. But look at the fusion of realism and radicalism which the Holy Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, brought to his work. He kept the Kaaba, the holiest monument in Islam. He could have demolished it as a symbol of all the idol worship and all the non-Islamic practices that had prevailed for centuries before him. He kept the form, realism, but he changed the content, which was radicalism. Because he said, no need for these booths, keep the structure and use that structure as the magnetic binding force for the beginning of a new phase of human belief and history. So, history teaches us, whether it is Islam, whether it is Buddhist, Buddha was not a prophet, but his concept of nirvana, where humanity searches for the truth within without looking for an external stimuli, is also very radical for his age. The sense of perpetual rebirth, as Hindus believe in, very, very radical. And it has moved millions and billions. Christianity, the power of that crucifix, Christ on the cross, what a galvanizing force. So, because religion plays such an important role in human life throughout history, and yet it doesn't in some parts of the Western world, religion is on the retreat. Perhaps partly so, rightly so, because of the contradictions of the established organized forms of religion. But we should never aspire to the Western notion of freedom from religion. I mean, to hear the name of Jesus Christ, who is a beloved prophet to us Muslims, juxtaposed with four-letter words, which is armed discourse. On streaming platforms, you can see movies where they will put a four-letter word with the name of Jesus Christ. Oh, we don't want that freedom. We don't want the unimaginable. So some unimaginable parts must not become imaginable. And yet there is so much scope for Pakistan, for the Marketing Association, to reach out for parts of the unimaginable. And we have the potential, as Asfar has said, as all of you have proven. How do we go forward? This is not a prescription. We have it within us. Whether we change the corpuscles of our being, our institutions, our political parties, which are the instruments of change. We have to reform the mechanisms of change which are political parties. Make them democratic, make them accountable. Then alone will the military become accountable. Then alone will Parliament become accountable and the judiciary become accountable. The unimaginable is imaginable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Javed Jabbar Sahab, for your wonderful talk. Before the Leaders Dialogue, we are inviting the RI President, Rotary International President-elect, Gordon McNally, for his brief talk on imagining the unimaginable. Mr. Gordon, please.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is a great privilege and a great pleasure to have this opportunity to spend a few moments with you and to, first of all, bring you greetings from Rotary International. As you have already heard, in total, in excess of 1.5 million humanitarians encircling the globe with one mission, and that is to make this world a better place, and in many ways to imagine the unimaginable. I love the theme of this event, the unimaginable. My wife and I left Scotland on the 4th of September, and since we left Scotland, we have seen a new monarch, we have seen and lost a Prime Minister, and in many ways we have seen the unimaginable happening back home in our own country. But Rotary for over 100 years has been imagining the unimaginable. And I would add another strand to what it means to imagine the unimaginable when I say that one must also be brave to imagine the unimaginable. Over 30 years ago, Rotary imagined the unimaginable in that it saw a world free from polio. At that time, that was unimaginable. Only once previously had the world rid itself of a disease, and that was smallpox. But Rotary was brave enough, was forward-thinking enough to believe that we could see a world free from polio. Let me remind you that 35 years ago, 1,000 individuals every single day were being affected by polio, were being crippled by polio. Fast forward 35 years to today, And in the entire calendar year up until now, only 29 individuals have been infected with polio. What an unimaginable situation we found ourselves in. And of course, as you well know, the last pocket of wild polio exists here in Pakistan. And I give you a pledge. I give you a pledge on behalf of the Rotarians all round this world that we will not give up the fight until we eliminate polio from Pakistan and from Afghanistan, and until we can fulfill our promise to the children of the world and ensure that for only the second time ever in human history, a disease has been eradicated from the world. We will imagine that imaginable, and we will deliver on that imaginable. I wish you well for the remainder of your event. I wish you well for the remainder of your conference. Be brave. Imagine the unimaginable, and it will come true. Thank you very much indeed.
जब खुदा की जात पर पुख्ता यकीन हो तो अल्लाह की मदद रस्ते की हर दीवार गिरा देती है। हर सुबह का सूरज तुलू होता है एक नई कामयाबी का इस्तकबाल करते हुए। अनथक मेहनत और लगन से ख्वाब हकीकत का रूप धारने लगते हैं और कामयाबी सजदा रेज होकर शुक्र बजा लाती है। क्योंकि जब ईमान हो खुदा पर और यकीन हो खुद पर तो कुछ भी नहीं नामुमकिन। पाकिस्तान का बेहतरीन इस्लामी बैंक मुहैया कर रहा है आपके लिए शरई उसूलों के मुताबिक बेहतरीन इस्लामी बैंकारी।
मैं हूं शाहीन अफरीदी और मेरा बैंक है फैसल इस्लामी।
फैसल इस्लामी, बढ़ो यकीन के साथ।
Thank you, Gordon. And now the time is for the leaders' dialogue. Saqib Ahmed is the moderator. Over to you, Saqib. Yusuf, please sit here.
Thank you very much, Esper. Thank you very much, Javed Jabbar sir, for such a passionate speech and the message. हम बचपन से जवान और जवान से बूढ़े हो गए, but I think जावेद जब्बार साहब का passion अभी तक उसी तरह मौजूद है, and that really needs a big clap on that one as well. I think इनके बाद बोलने के लिए हम सबको बहुत effort करनी पड़ेगी to bring that what was coming out from his naturally at this point of time. The topic today that we are talking about is leadership for new economic realities. I see a lot of leaders sitting across in this room. And when I talk about them, I see many of them with a white hair, with a no hair, or with a very experience that they carry. And experience was the key for the leadership. All across the years that we talk about, the leaders were carrying the experience which was helping them in making the right decision in the difficult times that they were talking about. Now this experience with time has been caught by the machines also. The new leadership is emerging in, and this new leadership is coming up and asking that they are going to get the experience from the people and they are going to get the implemented with the new tools and analytics that they are talking about. And when we are talking about in the form of absolutely new economic realities. If we go back 5 years back, imagine, have you thought about the challenges that we were facing today? Have you thought about that there will be a COVID and there will be a way of working that will be completely changing? Have we talked about the war between Russia and Ukraine will be impacting the lives of our kids as of today? Have we talked about that how the technology will completely taking over and there will be a new breed of millennials and the leaders coming in and driving the world as they are today? The slide of this dollar that we have seen in our lives on day-to-day basis. The new challenges of the foreign currency and FDI that we have to run our businesses today, the life has completely changed. बचपन से आज तक जब हम ये बात करते थे तो हम अपने मसाइल को और अपनी चीज़ों को मुख्तलिफ अंदाज से देखते थे. हमने कभी नहीं सोचा था कि ये टॉपिक्स विल बिकम द न्यू चैलेंजेस in the history of Pakistan, where the new breed of these leaders have to face into day-to-day our responsibilities and come up with the solutions on that one, so that we can make this country on the track that we want it to be, that all of you wanted us to take the drive for. That's where the challenge is today. We have an esteemed panelist today, and we'll be talking about how and where the world is leading going out, what are the policies that will be required, and overall, where the leadership is going over there as well. Let me start the discussion with Aurangzeb Saab Aapse, and let me start the discussion on the fact that this is the post-COVID area that we are talking about. We are also talking about that the war of Russia and Ukraine, I just mentioned, is coming up hitting us. One ship gets stuck in Suez and the whole supply chain gets impacted in our lives on day-to-day basis. What are the global impacts that you see right now happening, and especially impacting the very vulnerable part of our society, the group of people which are exposed to that one? So how do you see the global impact, and how we have to get ready for us in Pakistan to safeguard ourselves?
Ji, thank you, Saqib. Let me first start by congratulating everyone. Javed Jabbar Saab ne kuch events ka zikr kiya kal ka, but I think a huge win for Pakistan vis-a-vis FATF, and I'm humbled by the comments made in terms of the small role that HPL played in it. Lekin agar isme agar jo good lessons learned hai in terms of getting off the grey list, and to me from my perspective, and I think from everyone's perspective, political parties, idare, whether it was armed forces or intelligence agency, मैं Sayyid Irfan Ali साहब यहाँ बैठे हैं from State Bank, all private sector, we all came together, both in terms of design and जितना हमें फिर वक्त लगा in terms of operational effectiveness across sectors. I think as chairman of Pakistan Bank Association, I'm very proud that in terms of KYC, EML, sanctions, transaction monitoring, we were ahead of the curve, और उसके लिए मैं आपसे माज़रत ख़्वाह भी हूँ क्योंकि अब हमारे फॉर्म्स कैसे हो गए हैं और क्या-क्या हमारी diligence की requirements हो गई हैं. But I think we have come a long way, and we have earned it in a big way, and we have earned in a big way because we stand united on this one. तो जब हमें पाकिस्तान बिजनेस काउंसिल से हमने ये डिस्कशन शुरू की थी चार्टर फॉर इकोनॉमी की, वो इससे अलावा और कुछ नहीं है कि 3, 4, 5 बेसिक चीज़ों पे हम सब इकट्ठे हो जाएं. That's it. We don't need to go all the way down in a very granular way and get, agreement on every single thing. No, 3, 4, 5 things. And, Committee of Nations have told us, if you agree on 4, 5 things, and we come united as a country, as a nation, we can deliver. So I think if there is one thing to be congratulating all of us, but also in terms of the way forward, I think this is huge. Dekhiye, I was, since you mentioned about the global thing, I attended the IMF World Bank meetings last week in Washington, and on the sidelines of these meetings, met about 40, 50 stakeholders. तो उसमें 2-3 data points हैं. Met a global institution जिनकी sovereign debt advisory team, I met up with them in terms of seeing whether Pakistan get some help. At this point in time, they are advising 29 sovereigns. So there is good news and there is not good news. The good news is that we are not alone in terms of our economic challenges. There are many other countries who are going through the same discussions as we are at this point in time, fund or no fund. The other thing, the aspect of that is that isme ab hum, in some sense, the other thing that I did find, कि जो हम बात भी करते हैं in terms of also the flood devastation and the rescue and relief effort underway right now and rehab and reconstruction, it's a long road. There's a lot of empathy and sympathy. So ये दोनों चीजें हैं which are the good part of the story. The not good part of the story from my perspective is that we are also now in line with many other countries, और उसमें donor fatigue भी है, और उसमें multilaterals का bandwidth issue bhi hai. So again, my thought process on that one just coming out of those meetings is we have to get our story together. And one of the key things which is coming out from there is कि all your forces, all your stakeholders have to come together to present a credible story of where Pakistan is, what kind of support and assistance it requires. एक बात तो है कि quantitative, कितना $10 billion का लॉस हुआ या $20 billion का लॉस हुआ या $30 billion का लॉस हुआ, लेकिन बात ये है कि हम एक वॉइस से बात करें कि हमें इस वक्त क्या चाहिए, आज से 2 महीने के बाद क्या चाहिए, 3 महीने के बाद क्या चाहिए. So I think there's good stuff coming out of Islamabad at this point in time in terms of that we are sticking with the IMF program. We are going to focus on bilats in terms of how we are going to do our debt reprofiling or commercial debt हमने नहीं touch करना, which makes perfect sense at this point in time in the global context कि अगर $130 billion का हमारा external debt है और उसमें से 80% जो है multilateral and bilat है, why would we stop ourselves and knock ourselves out of international capital markets by not delivering on $9 to $10 billion of commercial debt or Eurobond? So I think that makes perfect sense. I think that consistency of message going through is going to be very important. The last thing I just want to mention in terms of that global context जाकर जो आपने बात किया, देखिए ये जो friendliness बात है ना, कि friendly countries, let's just forget about it. We are in a world where our people are talking about hardcore investors. आप उनको equity investment दें, आप उनको board seats दें, that's how the investment is going to come in. All this repo discussion कि ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा, this is not going to happen. And we need to all come together, everyone, and the private sector, I know Gyas is sitting with me and we are trying to work something out in the private sector, किस vehicles के through all the sympathetic investors who are ready, willing and able, who want to invest in Pakistan, but ये वो जो बात है ना कि जी आप आके deposit रख दें और सब अच्छे की, वो नहीं होगा अब. And we have to all, rise and realize this new world order in which we are living in as Pakistan. The last thing जो आपने बात की है कि lowest rank की जो बात है, I think ये हम बहुत IMF पे नाराज होते हैं और लोगों पे नाराज होते हैं कि ये आके हमारे structural benchmarks दे देते हैं, etc. The country is already doing that. जो हम targeted subsidies दे रहे हैं to our most affected people. And I am a witness to it because 60 billion rupees has been dispersed to 2.3 million beneficiaries through HBL counters, through our branches, through our agents, through our ATM network. So this is not a small amount. अगर आज भी हम 220 या 225 पे लगाएं, this is 2.8 billion dollars which has been dispersed to these amount of beneficiaries. अगर 2.3 million आप beneficiaries लगाएं और आप एक average household देखें जो 6 लोगों का होगा, right? या 7 लोगों का होगा या 8 लोगों का होगा. So we are covering at least 1/3 of the country. In terms of reaching out to the population, I think is the right thing to do. That's what the fund is saying, कि आप targeted subsidies में लाएं और जहाँ उनका मसले मसाइल आते हैं कि जी हम ये electricity में क्या कर रहे हैं, हम petroleum में क्या कर रहे हैं, तो ये all they are saying is target it to the population which actually requires it. और अब बिस आप कह लें पिछली एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में कुछ और कह रहे थे, यही मैं आपसे अर्ज करना चाह रहा हूँ. We can call it whatever we want to call it, we can label it whatever we want to label it. बात वही है कि आपके पास एक डेटाबेस है और जफर साहब आप उस बोर्ड पे बैठते हैं जहाँ पहले डॉक्टर सनिया निश्तर थी, अब we have another person who's running this. Doesn't matter, you have the database. And that is a database which is a very transparent database, जिसके through we can help, support, assist the lowest rung of our society. Thank you, Ji.
Very rightfully said, Sir. FATF, जो है, that was one of the things that were there for us for a very long time, and getting it through makes us much more powerful, and it is also very coordinated effort that we talked about today. So thank you very much, sir, for the great effort and contribution on that one. Ghayas, coming to you overall, I think the current situation in Pakistan for a common man is very tough overall, especially with the cost of the living going so high, talking about how the people, and especially there is a vulnerable part of our society which becomes very difficult to manage the day-to-day livings that they are talking about. What are the policy changes in this post-COVID area that are required at this very point of time so that to make this country thrive and make sure from the short term and long term how we can manage things in the best possible way?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Asfar and the Marketing Association of Pakistan, thank you very much for the invite. It's a pleasure to be here, sharing the stage with the, true legends of business and our corporate sector. And a great account given by Javed Saab on the potential of Pakistan, imagining what the things that we've been able to do as a nation, and then of course Aurangzeb on giving the global perspective. But I want to, looking at whatever is happening in the world, I just want to start on a slightly lighter note, knowing that Maula Jat has recently been released. I want to start with a Punjabi sher. Kuch shair de log bhi zalim san, kuch sanu bhi varanda shauk bhi si. And staying true to the theme of imagining the unimaginable, I want us to just for a few seconds exercise our imagination muscle and imagine that there is a planet out there which is exactly like planet Earth, and we have the option to go occupy a piece of geography on that planet. What will it be? For me, it will be Pakistan. And here's why. Let's start with energy. We've got 200 billion tons of coal reserves in Thar. If we had started our journey on energy at Thar coal 25 years ago, it would have replaced all the RLNG based plants, all the furnace oil plants, and we would have been saving $5 billion a year. Our current account deficit on average for the last 10 odd years is somewhere around $5 billion. We've got a potential of wind power generation of approximately 43,000 megawatts. We have got one of the best sites in the world for solar, and we've only used about 0.07% of it. We've got about $80 odd billion of copper reserves, $30 odd billion of gold reserves. We've got arable land, 37 million hectares of arable land. And just by way of comparison, Netherlands, which is about 16 times smaller than us in terms of size, exports about 11 times more agri-produce than us. We've got a population of 150 million people below the age of 30, and in a world where aging population is an issue, in a world where technology services are required, one can imagine what we can do with it. It is a piece of geography which neighbors two of the largest economies in the world. It is that corridor which provides access to warm waters to countries in Central Asia. It is the country which connects the entire Middle East and Africa with South Asia and Central Asia. So when it comes to potential of our country, we can only imagine what we could have been or what we can be. But Saqib, sorry for the long background, but coming to your question on what we need to do, it is unimaginable for us to achieve our true potential if we don't put some things right. And when it comes to bringing about step changes in our economy, unless and until we encourage people to invest in the productive sector, nothing will happen. Let me share an example. If I had invested 100 rupees 5 years ago in real estate, that would have become about 155. If I had bought a car, that would have become around 175. But if I had invested that in the stock market, that would have become 83. There are marketeers over here. Switch on the television and please note what are the majority of the advertisements representing, showing? You know, I'm going to talk about a local township here in Karachi by the name of Behria. I'm a customer of that. It's a wonderful, wonderful project. The economic value of that township is around $15 billion. The cumulative market cap of all listed companies on Pakistan Stock Exchange is 31. So that kind of gives you an idea that we're living right now in a country where if you own a car, it will go from 100 to 175. But if you buy the shares of the car of the company that manufactures those cars, your money will reduce by 2/3. And I'm quoting a real example of the stock price of one of those companies. And that's what's going wrong. And that is what we need to fix. That how do we encourage investors, and as Aurangzeb said, encouraging foreign and local investors to put money in productive assets. Unless and until we do that, we're going to continue to be on the wretched path, unfortunately, that we've been on. Our taxation structures. You want to put up a manufacturing facility or a business, you'll end up paying 33% in income tax, 4% in super tax when the season is right, and about 15% on dividends. So you're effectively paying more than 50% tax, but I invested in real estate, I'm sure all of us have. Barring the change in laws recently, which have also been challenged, you keep that piece of land for 4 years and you pay zero tax. We must realize that investment will flow to those opportunities which provide the best risk-adjusted return. So it is for the policy makers to set an environment, to enact laws which encourage investments in the right sectors. And lastly, in terms of our geostrategic location, as I said, we are neighbors to two of the biggest economies. And unfortunately, we do hardly any trade with 91% of our borders. Hardly any trade. Whether you look at it from the potential of our current businesses or future businesses. I mean, imagine if our borders were open, you would import lithium from Afghanistan. We've got $85 billion of copper reserves. You'll end up making batteries for the EV industry and serve China and India, which will be consuming 50% of the future electric vehicles. And this is just one example. But we obviously need to think of our geostrategic role that we keep on talking about, not just in the theater of, and not just imagine ourselves in the theater of this regional and global conflict. It has to be in the theater of global trade. And hence, the policymakers need to think about our role in this region, knowing that in the modern world, it's the regions which progress, whether it's NAFTA, whether it's European Union, whether it's ASEAN. So Saqib, sorry, long remarks, but I hope that covers the question.
Thank you very much. And I think you touched the right place. I think the examples that he gave, I think it's speechless. If we are living in a country where the investments are going in direction and we are thinking only on our own part, then we will be where we are. So it's the roles of the policymakers to divine the way which can help us going in that strategizing in the right direction, and it's our own responsibility also to see what we are doing either on an individual level or we have to see as Pakistanis. Thank you very much, Gayas. I think you really nailed it. I just been told that Javed Jabbar Sahab has to leave over here, so.
Only for 2 minutes, if you may be excused, I'll come right back.
Okay.
I've decided to abstain from the next event out of deference to your very kind hospitality. I'm sacrificing that to the larger national interest. Just come back.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Javed sir.
Thank you very much. So I will be coming to Maheen in the meantime, talking about some of the factors that we talked about were given in the economy before us, that they will always be right, are not right anymore. And when we talk about, especially in the world today, about the different pillars, when we talk about inflation, labor, supply chain, ESG and sustainability, where do we stand in Pakistan, and what are the impacts that we are going to have in our society, and what should be done to get it right?
Well, first of all, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and Assalamu alaikum to everyone here. A big thank you to Asfar and the Marketing Association of Pakistan for having me here today on this very august panel. I think we're hearing a lot of talk about policy and economics and where should we be and where should we go. Let's look at, first of all, what is going to work for us. Before we ask about what the rest of the world wants, let's talk about ourselves a little bit. What is it that we need to be investing in today to achieve our end goals? And when we talk about this, when we talk about policy, we have to find some baseline points which we must all agree on. And what are those? Health, education, labor productivity, entrepreneurship, job creation, and then eventually global competitiveness, which is where we want to go. So how do we begin to engage and understand where we are in the world today? So let me go very macro on you. We are the 5th largest country in the world in terms of population. Can anyone here name the first 4 for me? Just shout it out. Who do you think set number 1 in terms of population? China, 2nd, India, 3rd, USA, 4th, Indonesia, and we're sitting at number 5. So, does population really contribute towards economic growth and development? Hands up for yes? It should. So how much do you think these top 5 countries in terms of population contribute to world GDP? Just as a percentage. Any guesses? 75. What else? So 40 is close. So 45% of world GDP is contributed by the top 5 countries in terms of population. When we pick up the top 10 in terms of population, that's almost 60% of world GDP. So clearly there's something here. But what do you think Pakistan's contribution is to world GDP? I can't hear you. 3%? It's actually less than 0.4%. So let's think about that for a minute, right? The top 10 countries in the world in terms of population are contributing almost 60% of world GDP. We are at 0.4. What's happened? And I think this is where let's drill down into a little bit of micro here. Our labor force is about 70 million people. We talk about young labor force. We talk, we have 150 million people below the age of 30. But truly, how productive are they? Have we really invested in our labor force in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of job availability, to be able to even push our labor force to be as productive as they need to be? And the second question we should ask ourselves is, what's the composition of our labor force? And I don't say this simply because I'm the only woman on this panel, is we have less than 20% of women represented in the entire labor force. So how on earth are 40, 50 million productive people meant to raise the welfare of 220 million people? It's not possible. So not only does our labor need to be more productive, there needs to be more of it. That means that we need to add more women. We need to add more individuals who can be at a certain caliber and at a certain stage of their lives where they can engage in productive businesses. So here's our challenge, and here's where I encourage you to imagine what would happen if we were able to move that 0.4 to just 0.8, just double our capacity. And that doubling our capacity will come from a wider labor force participation, greater productivity, investments in our labor force in terms of health, education, social welfare, etc. And what does that, just that 0.4 to 0.8, what does that mean for Pakistan? It'll double our GDP from $350 billion to $700 billion. It will increase our middle class, which is currently about 25 million people, to almost 50 million people. And it will overall raise our understanding, our integration, our ability to relate to the world in a new way. So, let's take this as our unimaginable goal and say, how are we going to just use this strength that we have given? And it's a God-given strength. Being number 5 in terms of the population metric, and say, how can we double our own ability by investing in our own people? And I think that's the thought I'd like to leave you here with today, because ultimately, any policy that we take on has to address this issue. And if it doesn't, then that 0.4 goes to 0.3, goes to 0.2, and effectively, despite being the 5th largest country in the world, we become slowly more irrelevant. So I'll stop there, and I'll turn it back to you.
Fifth largest country that we talk about, we have people, but we don't have skilled labor that we have been highlighted over here, and the participation of women, which has been talked about in every forum at this very point of time, has to be taken much more seriously to make an impact in the policy. And that is something individually as leaders we need to take note of that one as well. Thank you very much, Maheen, for bringing these points, and especially the numbers hit, and it also hit the cameraman as well. I realize that I hope he's good now. Amir, coming to you, and especially considering the fact that we all know we are coming in a difficult economic time zone at this very point of time, and there is expected to we have a social gap that is coming in society's different sectors, and it is impacting the individuals. What should be done on our personal level and professional level which can help this society covering that gap, especially in these difficult hours of economic reality that we are talking about? So over to you, Amir.
Thank you, Saqib. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you to Asfar and MAP for having me here. Interesting statistics being shared by Maheen, by Ghias, and by Ori, and thank you to everyone being here. If you look at the world, it's in a state of a mess. I don't think it's only Pakistan in a state of a mess. And there's different kind and different flavors floating around. The biggest 2 themes being talked about globally, there are many, but I think so they've kind of got down to 2, which is climate change and inequality. And we have seen what climate change has done to us. And it has a direct impact on the inequality. पहले भी लोग बहुत ही गरीब थे, बहुत ही मुश्किल हालात के अंदर थे, और जो floods आए हैं उसके बाद उनके हालात और ज़्यादा ख़राब हो गए. And the only way we can change that is this concept called shared prosperity. And I think so this new age company which we call startups has very well embraced the concept of shared economy, where everyone is a beneficiary, which is very different than the pure play capitalism. Now, one of the statistics I would like to share is 80 richest people in the world today share the same wealth which 3.5 billion people in the world share. Now that gap is further widening and will continue to widen. The question is how to address it. Yeah. And it's not an easy answer how to address it. Earlier we thought it's government's job. to look after the society, the welfare of people. फिर हमने कहा साथ में NGO का भी काम है, तो NGOs भी basically ये काम करें. But the reality is government and NGOs cannot fill the gap because the gap is huge. And we need corporations like us to step forward to really basically contribute to really bridging this societal gap. And we need to therefore move away from a pure play capitalism to conscious capitalism, because corporations are no more here to actually make money. They now need to actually serve the society, and if they are not serving the society, they're going to be a problem. And why there's going to be a problem? Because these millennials or Gen Zs, they are not interested to work for organizations which are hardcore capitalistic organizations. अगर आप इस वक्त LinkedIn की latest research आई है, and they have talked about 5 key areas जो youngsters जो millennials हैं, in an order of priority they want to work for that organization. The number 1 in the world is well-being. Well-being. So they're saying my well-being must not get compromised. The number 2 is flexibility. Give me flexibility to work from anywhere I want. Yeah. Number 3, they are saying purpose. How purposeful and meaningful my job is. The 3rd is reward, and the 4th is career progression. Now, when I was growing up and when I graduated, career progression was number 1, the reward, and then the rest. And therefore, what we need to do is we need to address the answer. For me, the unimaginable is, and I think so, now I'm about to say something which is very controversial. It is controversial globally, but I genuinely believe in that. Pakistan has to move away from this minimum wage of 25,000 rupees to a fair living wage. And what is this fair living wage? Yeah. There's a fair living network which calculates the fair living wage for every country, for every city in the world. और जो उन्होंने कैलकुलेशन पाकिस्तान के लिए की हुई है, जहाँ पे आपको एक इंसान को एक डिग्निफाइड ज़िंदगी गुजारने की ज़रूरत है, जहाँ पे उसको हेल्थ का भी मिले, उसको एजुकेशन का भी एडवांटेज मिले, वो कराची, लाहौर, इस्लामाबाद के लिए, ये 1 साल पुराना फिगर है, मैं जो इन्फ्लेशन लगा दूँ और मैं डिवैल्यूएशन लगा दूँ तो तकरीबन कोई 56,000 रुपीज़ है. और नॉन KLI सिटीज़ के लिए वो तकरीबन कोई 49,000 रुपीज़ है. आज बड़ी मुश्किलों से 25,000 रुपये हुआ है, उसके ऊपर भी बेसिकली जाके कोर्ट में केस हो गया था कि 25,000 रुपये नहीं दे सकते. और मेरे ख्याल में अगर हम लोगों ने सोसाइटल गैप को कम करना है तो हमें ये GDP मैट्रिक से बाहर निकलना पड़ेगा और हमें HDI मैट्रिक में जाना पड़ेगा जो कि ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट इंडेक्स है, और पाकिस्तान आज HDI के ऊपर 152 के ऊपर है आउट ऑफ 153 कंट्रीज. और जब तक हम लोगों को वेजेस जो नीचे का तबका है उसको फेयर लिविंग वेज नहीं देंगे, वो हमेशा डोनेशन पे, ज़कात के ऊपर, चैरिटी के ऊपर वो चलेगा, वो हमेशा मांगता रहेगा, उसकी लाइफ में जब भी कोई स्पीड बम्प आएगा. एंड आई थिंक सो वी रियली नीड टू स्टार्ट थिंकिंग ओवर इट एंड स्टार्ट रेजिस्टिंग दिस मिनिमम वेज.
एब्सोल्युटली राइट आमिर. जब हम पाकिस्तान की बात करते हैं और हम आम ज़िंदगी गुजारने की बात करते हैं तो ये हम सब का फ़र्ज़ है. जब हम अपने ऑफिस के बाहर खड़े हुए गार्ड को देखते हैं और सोचते हैं कि ये हमसे 2 घंटे पहले घर से चला होगा और हमसे 2 घंटे बाद घर से पहुंचा होगा, और उसके जो वो तनख्वाह लेकर जाता है वो शायद 17 या 18,000 रुपये है, जिसमें उसने उन 6 बच्चों को भी पालना है और वो रास्ते में उस तमाम वैगनों का किराया भी देना है. आई थिंक दैट्स अ टफ रियलिटी. And we need to make sure that how this ecosystem from us and from the government combined together gives that comfort to the guy that it will come and give us the scalable and the skillful labor resource that we are talking about. It's a matter of survival for him. And here we are talking about how we have to grow. So very, very rightfully talked about Amir on that one. I will start the final round of questions, and that will be now on the leadership. मुझे याद है मुझसे किसी ने रिसेंट टाइम में पूछा यार कैन यू टेल योर जर्नी अबाउट अ लीडरशिप कि आपको कब एहसास हुआ कि आप कब लीडर बने, तो मैंने सोचना शुरू कर दिया उसके ऊपर. And then I came up and responded to him. I remember when I was a kid, I used to live in Lahore, and there was this town, Tariq block, where I used to live, and we used to have a cricket competition with our block, which was the next block. And what I used to do was to select from our people around on that was there, the skill set that was there on the team, and try to prepare the team, take the people at the right position, and then try to win the match against the competition. Try to get the best resources, put them at the right place, try to guess output of them, and then see the results that had come in. Leadership is all about placing and picking the right people, placing them in the right place so they can give you the best out of that company. That's where the leadership comes in. But it's very easy to say, Aurangzeb, coming back to you on that question of leadership, leadership was relatively, I will not say easy in the old times, but it was always within the known factors. We knew what can be the problems. We knew what we will face ahead. We knew what can be the 80% of challenges and how they were handled earlier. In the difficult time zone of today, where we don't know what is the next challenge, what will be your advice to the leaders of today, how to manage that one?
Thank you, Sakib. I'll be very brief because we are standing between ourselves and lunch now, so we have to be brief. देखिए, I speak out of turn in terms of the panel here and all the senior leaders sitting here. देखिए, मेरे लिए leadership में the main thing is that we are paid to make decisions, and I think this is very very critical कि वो जो courage और conviction है, और जैसे भी आपने बात की है, there are so many moving parts, and you know the external world, the internal world. 80% is good enough. We don't have to, dot the I's and, all the T's to be crossed. Good is good enough. We should make decision and move on. और ये बहुत बड़ी critical चीज़ है जो at times one finds lacking at the top of the houses, in the middle management, और whether हम छोटे से छोटा अदारा चला रहे हों या एक मुल्क चला रहे हों. Timely decision and timely execution. That is what matters, and that's what's required of leadership. The second data point I just want to mention very quickly कि अभी हेनरी किसिंजर की अभी एक किताब आई है, 1 महीना पहले ये पब्लिश हुई है. अगर आपने देखी है ज़रूर, अगर नहीं देखी है लिबर्टी बुक्स में अवेलेबल है. आई थिंक इसको ज़रूर देखिए, पढ़िए. Now here's a 99-year-old statesman who's talking about leadership, and who's written about leadership and about the indispensability of leadership, because leadership matters. और उसमें उन्होंने जो मेन चीज़ें की हैं कि बजाय इसके सारी थियरी एंड स्ट्रक्चर, वी ऑल नो, मैं हमेशा ये कहता हूँ कि पॉलिसी प्रिस्क्रिप्शंस की ज़्यादा ज़रूरत नहीं है. व्हाट एंड व्हाई तो हम सबको पता है, इज़ द हाउ पार्ट ऑफ इट. तो उसमें उन्होंने 6 लीडर्स को उठाया है, उनकी ज़िंदगियों को देखा है, उनकी लीडरशिप स्टाइल्स को देखा है. And उसमें, from Lee Kuan Yew to Charles de Gaulle to Margaret Thatcher, और themes वही हैं, लेकिन उसको उन्होंने, ये बताया कि how can you walk the talk, whether it's humility, whether it's excellence in the case of Lee Kuan Yew, or it's conviction in case of Margaret Thatcher. And I genuinely believe कि we can learn from these great leaders कि हम अपने ये जो अपने leadership style हैं, because from my perspective, जो leadership का दो नज़रिए हैं. एक हमारी personalities होती हैं. Personalities are formed, what I'm told, जब हम 2-3 साल के होते हैं हमारी personalities are formed. Then it's a question of our behaviors, and those behaviors then actually come into our management styles, our leadership styles. That's what we can work on. इसलिए मैं अगर मैं गुजारिश कर सकूं, क्योंकि सब यहाँ बड़े लीडर्स बैठे हैं, अगर आपने ये किताब नहीं पढ़ी ज़रूर पढ़िए. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aurangzeb. And exactly right. We have to make the decision and get that decision executed at the right time. It can be with time, right or wrong, that time will tell, but get the decision moving so that things can move on. Ghayas, coming to you on the leadership. Leadership was usually experience, but the leader of today is all about analytics, tools. He has everything. How do you see this leadership will evolve moving forward with a combination of experience and these analytics tools together? How it will happen?
So Saqib, first of all, I on the first point, I completely agree with what Aurangzeb said, that, leaders are paid to make decisions. So I think that's a very fundamental point. We are living in a time where we've got access to a lot more data than perhaps leaders even a decade ago, right? The availability of information is there, which kind of makes decision making slightly easier. But at the same time, we're living in a far more complex world, which is very, very difficult to forecast, right? So it's a combination of both. So the one thing which, and looking at both these challenges, data obviously helps you in making your decisions relatively easier, but the way to navigate the uncertainty is for every leader to surround themselves with the best people possible, right? Because what you can surely bet on is that if let's say any leader has the best team, then bet on the fact that they will figure out the uncertain future before others. So having a culture where you attract the best talent, but then also get them to work together. So elements of collaboration become very, very important. So gone are the times when you can work in silos. So depending on teams, and you've got multiple examples of that, right? The biggest one is Ronald Reagan, right? He was an actor, US president, perhaps had the best team ever assembled in US history, right? And you saw the results. Someone else can be also advised to do the same, but only time will tell. So, so that's that. The second point is, of course, what Amir alluded to in his first question, which is, we can't expect people who are in the company entry levels and mid-tier level to be like us. 75% of Engro, for example, is full of are millennials, right? We were raised in a very different era where if we talked about our feelings and our career progression, abba ka juta padta tha aur kehte jaake kaam karo. That's not going to work. That doesn't work anymore. Really identifying the purpose of the company, as Amir said, and then converting that into the impact each individual is making towards that purpose becomes very important. And having a better understanding for leaders of what people are actually going through is critical. And that's perhaps was always important, but has become even more important now with the hardships that people are facing, with COVID being one example where people were working out of home. So having a pulse of what people are really feeling and being in touch with them directly becomes very, very critical. So, yeah.
So I'm not going to say that I'm flattering you on stage, but I have been working with Engro as a business partner as well. And one thing that I can tell you right away, that I think one of the best assembled team of people to make the right decisions at the right time. I think that's one clear example of what you said as well. Mine coming to you, and Rayas just mentioned that he has to deal with all the millennials and the new leaders of today. What is your advice to these young leaders who are being there, relative experience with the tools, how they should manage this change?
I think this is one of the biggest challenges, and I think the jury is still out on what the best way to manage millennials actually is. I think what will work is, we've talked about decisions and being able to make good decisions. I think before we make those decisions, we have to learn to listen. Listen to the market, listen to our employees, listen to our customers, listen to our stakeholders, which is more than just shareholders, it's actually government. It's like the whole direction in which they want the economy to run. So we have to, as leaders today, I think we're sandwiched between a large number of stakeholders. And the biggest challenge is really knowing what's the right decision to make at what point in time. So we can't do that until we actually listen and understand what is being asked of us, both from our employees in specific. Millennials today are not like us. We were given a task, we ran with it, we didn't question it. They want to know, why am I doing this? Is this really productive to the company? They want to be empowered. And this is a challenge because sometimes they don't always have that experience. But I have found that the more empowerment you throw down the line, the more better results you get back up the line, rather than being too micromanaged about it. So I think that's one aspect. I think the other thing we have to realize is the world is very different. It's changing very fast, politically, economically. I don't think we've seen this much international political flux since perhaps 1989, when the Soviet Union actually fell. It is an incredibly interesting time, because we actually don't know which way the power may actually sit eventually. And so it's very important in times like this that while you attempt to make the best decisions, you don't remain married to those decisions for life. The ability to change your focus, the ability to change your decision, the ability to adapt quickly is what is really going to separate, I think, the boys from the men in the new world. That's it.
Thank you very much, Rahim. In other ways, you are saying U-turns are also acceptable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So coming back to Ahmed, to your last question. There are too much happening these days when we come to the leadership type. Political instability comes and it hits us from another angle. Dollar variation comes in and all our plans are just gone away in a moment. Supply chain comes in and the whole delivery model is completely changed. How a leader can focus on the end goal that he's trying to be there? Because this disruption is coming again and again and again. How to focus?
Yeah, thank you, Saqib. A lot of you have actually heard this word called VUCA, which is coined back in 1987 by US military. And it stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And, you know, a lot of organizations kept on talking about. But the last 5 years, this expression is no more relevant. A new expression has been coined, which is called now BANI. And it stands for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. और ये उस दुनिया के लिए निकाला गया है when there's a chaos. And we have now entered into an era which is chaotic. Not ambiguous anymore, not uncertain, not volatile. And we need to get prepared for chaos. And it's not going anywhere. Earlier, chaos used to happen once in decades, then one time in a decade, then every 3rd or 4th year. And I think so, at least I've seen it's been happening the last 3 years consecutively since COVID struck us. And could be every month and every day. So as leaders, we really need to think through that how we will prepare to deal with chaos every single day, rather than waiting कि ये अब chaos खत्म होगा तो मैं इस तरह act करूँगा. I'll wait it out. So you can't wait it out anymore. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. And it's going to get increasing. So there are 3-4 things that I think so leaders need to be looking at. Number one is new leaders now need to develop an instinct to know the external shifts happening around them much before time. Number two is the ability to sense the fresh economic opportunities. The third one is the ability and the skill to manage and lead in a crisis like a pro. And finally, I think so what's going to be very important, and I think so there are many leaders in the room and in the world, but they are very less human available. This is the time to lead with empathy, because we are about to get into a world of disorder, chaos, distraction, ample people going to be going through the state of mental unwell-being, and therefore empathy and humaneness is going to be very important to lead the crowd, particularly the millennials and Gen Z. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amir. And you are absolutely right. The chaos is there. We need to manage it on day-to-day basis. And empathy is the one that is required by all of us. So I first of all, thank you very much for all the panelists. I think one of the really, really good panels that I have conducted, because the kind of info that came out of that one in terms of the data points, where do we stand, where will we stand globally, what are our issues on the point, and to be honest, very crisp and direct mentions what our problem statements are. We may not give you, this panel, the complete answers on what can be our solutions, but we can guide you out over there where we need to focus, because it's important, or all the people in the room that we are talking about today, to take something out of it and make a change in their personal lives and in their professional lives to make an impact. That's the only way such discussions can have some value for all of us over there. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for that one. Asper, coming back to you on this.
And thank you, Mohammad Aurangzeb, Riyaz Khan, Mahin Rehman, and Amir Paracha for the wonderful dialogue. At the end, I will request Mr. Yusuf Hussain to please join us here and present the shields to our worthy speakers and panelists. Please join us here. First, Mr. Javed Jabbar, our today's keynote speaker. Mr. Mohammad Aurangzeb, the Chairman, Pakistan Business Council. Mr. Ghayas Khan, the President of Angro and OICCI. Ms. Mahin Rehman, the CEO of Infrazamin. Mahin is also joining the Marketing Association of Pakistan. My friend, Mr. Amir Paracha, the Chairman and CEO of Unilever Pakistan, and he's the Vice President of OICCI. My request to Mr. Sikandar Sultan. Mr. Sikandar Sultan, please join us here. Mr. Sikandar Sultan is the chairman of Shan Foods. He is our council member, and he is also a classic example of imagining the unimaginable. I believe that this is Pakistan's biggest brand. They are selling their products globally, and please present the shield to our speaker, Mr. Yusuf Hussain. All our speakers are requested to please join us here for the group photograph, and this will be followed by lunch. And yes, Saqib is missing, sorry. Saqib. So I will request Mr. Mohammad Aurangzeb to please present the shield to Mr. Saqib Ahmed. Sikandar Sahab, please join us here.
तो शाही है, परवाज है काम तेरा। तेरे सामने आसमान और भी है। ईमान, अज़्म, मेहनत और अल्लाह ताला की रहमत पर यकीन कामिल है पाकिस्तान के बेहतरीन बॉलर और बेहतरीन इस्लामी बैंक फैसल इस्लामी के मुश्तरका इक़दार। फैसल इस्लामी फराहम कर रहा है सूद से पाक इस्लामी बैंकिंग की जदीद सहूलियात, शरई तकाज़ों के मुताबिक बेहतरीन इस्लामिक प्रोडक्ट्स। मुल्क भर में इस्लामिक ब्रांचेस के वसी नेटवर्क से मिले आपको तमाम। मैं हूं शाहीन शाह अफरीदी और फैसल इस्लामी बैंक से बढ़े मेरी परवाज।
सजदा रेज होकर शुक्र बजा लाती है। क्योंकि जब ईमान हो खुदा पर और यकीन हो खुद पर तो कुछ भी नहीं नामुमकिन। पाकिस्तान का बेहतरीन इस्लामी बैंक मुहैया कर रहा है आपके लिए शरई उसूलों के मुताबिक बेहतरीन इस्लामी बैंकारी।
मैं हूं शाहीन अफरीदी और मेरा बैंक है फैसल इस्लामी।
फैसल इस्लामी, बढ़ो यकीन के साथ।